Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be doing a first impressions on Sword of Convallaria. I'm not crazy far in. I did a live stream yesterday and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to talk about what I like, some of the opportunities for it. So let's go ahead and dig in. Now, there's a couple of reasons I really love this game. Many of you who have seen it or have been considering playing it, definitely the Final Fantasy Tactics-esque feel of the game does feel really good. It's almost like you took the 2D HD approach that they took with Octopath Traveler and kind of mixed it together with some of these other tactics games, or more specifically like a Final Fantasy Tactics game, but added a little bit more of a darker story and threw some Chrono Trigger in there. That's the best way I have to explain what this game is so far. And to be honest with you, I'm really digging it. A lot of you guys know I'm a PvE player. I don't always love PvP, although the PvP in this game, from what I've heard, does get very complicated. I'm not quite there yet, but it does seem like it has something for everybody. And even one of the most unique things about this game, which I think is absolutely just a phenomenal idea, is you have kind of these three kind of sections that you can choose from. Crossing Worlds is going to be like your leveling up area. You're farming for materials. The Fool's Journey is going to be like the main story, so to say, but it's almost like an abridged story, so to say. It's more designed around missions, progressing. It's kind of similar to Arknights. But then you have this thing called Spiral of Destinies, which is like a whole main story, fully fleshed out single player experience where you can go and you can experience different crises. You can go through and experience the story. You can get to know the characters. It's really one of those things where there's something for everybody in this game. And I love it. It's absolutely amazing compared to something like War of the Visions, where like you bust out the story and then you're done for a week, right? This is a lot more drawn out, a lot longer of an experience, and I would say a funner experience as well. Now, a lot of people are going to be asking, is it pay to win? Is it free to play? I don't really have an answer for you on that right now. I think from what I understand, and from the experiences that I've heard from other players, particularly playing on the Taiwanese server, is that, you know, a really good free-to-play player is always going to be able to beat a whale that is not trying or not taking advantage of their strengths. And I think that is a very good indication of how good the game can be, or how balanced the game is. And it seems like it's a little bit more balanced than something like, say, War of the Visions or Near Reincarnation, where it's kind of about, you know, how much money you spend. It's about building your roster. It's about building up your stats from building up your roster, like in War of the Visions. It's about vision cards. So you're in this situation where it seems like the game is relatively well balanced across all spectrums. Now, one thing I did encounter as I was playing the game, and to be fair, I'm not that crazy far into the game yet, is I have been running out of energy. Now, if you're someone who's going to be a free-to-play player, if you're somebody who is kind of doing all of the things you can to maximize your effort, energy does seem like it's going to be a bottleneck. Now, you can do that main story that I talked about because you don't really need a lot of energy for that. The rewards aren't that great from it though, but it does seem like you're going to constantly be kind of hitting that energy wall unless you are buying energy or unless you're buying refills in certain ways. Now, I do want to highlight the combat because I do think the combat is really good. I do think there is some opportunities as well. And there is, of course, going to be AI in this. So let's go ahead and start a battle, and I'll just show you all what the gameplay looks like and some of the things I've experienced throughout playing the game. Now, you have, of course, your initial format, and you can tell I'm still starting out because I only have 5 deployable characters currently. And you'll notice I have a character named Iggy here. I have a character named Beryl, and you'll notice there's different types. So unlike games like War of the Visions, where it's very like elemental advantage, this is going to fall kind of into the category of Fire Emblem, where certain classes have advantage types over others. You can see it in the upper right hand corner up here, and for the most part, that's okay. It seems like it's a pretty good system. What's interesting with this is, as someone who has played these types of games before, it seems like the advantage system is much more relevant than other games. It seems like the advantage system is almost critical. And so there have been times where I've been progressing through the story. And of course, I don't have high level characters. I don't have max level equipment, right? But there are times where I'm progressing through the story where I look at the field, right? And I say, oh, I got 2 fighters right here, right? And so it might behoove me to have a unit type that gives me advantage to them. Now, another thing that's really cool to consider as well is you do see the movement does show kind of like the zone of control, the zone where you can get hit by enemies. So the manual version and the manual fighting of this game kind of levels up from other games like War of the Visions, or games where it's really focused on like self-character buffs and execution, right? In War of the Visions, it was all about what's my auto AI going to do, what's it going to buff in this order, how's it going to take actions, how is it going to work together with my other units. But in this game, it's going to be a little bit more manually controlled, manually influenced. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys, the AI in this game is terrible. So you are going to encounter situations, even if you whale, where you are going to have to actually use strategy, plan your moves, and execute them accordingly. Now, people are probably going to ask me, how bad could the AI be? Well, it seems like the AI, and I'm not 100% sure on this, does prioritize HP within range for it to attack. Particularly, it considers like explosive barrels enemies in some situations, which is really weird. So I'll have a situation where I'll have like a unit right here, right? And I'm just gonna have her stand by there, and one of my AIs will come through and they'll be like, oh, there's 2 enemies here. Or even if there's no enemies here, they'll be like, oh, there's 2 enemies here, I'm gonna blow up this barrel and kill my own unit. And even if there's no enemies, they'll still blow up the barrel and kill your own unit. And so there is an element of struggle that does seem to happen in this game, which does make things sometimes a little bit difficult, especially if you're looking for just like a smooth experience and you're not wanting to manual. One of the other things this game does really good in combat is it does offer unique abilities to units where their roles seem somewhat different. They seem excited, right? Like you have healers, you have like mages, right? In other games, you have archers, and they kind of all fall into their role. This tends to be more character specific. There tends to be more movement focus, more zone of control focus. So unlike other games or other tactical games where you might just have like a counter attack ability, what this is going to do is it's going to enable you, for Iggy, for example, to set a zone of control in front of him. He's going to be able to set a zone of control for like 6 squares in front of him. If any unit moves within those 6 squares, he's going to attack and kill that unit. So you're entering into a tactical dynamic where you can set places in the field. Like if you want to protect a certain choke point, but you don't have a tank character to like position in there, you can position abilities to cover that area until your tank gets into position. So there's a lot of things going on tactically outside of like the environment too, where I just talked about the barrels. You can knock barrels into opponents, you can knock opponents into opponents, you can, you know, blow barrels up and kill enemies, right? So there's a variety of different approaches that you can take to handling every situation. You can see right now that red box around where my unit is, that's an example of like an area of effect, right? Or like a unit is charging an attack and he's gonna shoot Iggy. Iggy moves, he moves, and see how his AI just walked into a trap there? That is an example. That is an example of bad AI. Now, talking about traps, the enemy just walked into a trap too there, right? The AI is stupid. Like, we're just putting that all aside. The AI itself is not great, but the character development, the strategies, the routes you can go with the characters, all of it is fantastic. There's, you know, no way that I could say like a bad thing around like the tactical execution of the gameplay. Now let's talk about characters and let's talk about kind of what I've experienced so far. Now, I am aware that there is a guild system. I'm not sure if it's incorporated into global yet. Again, I've only played this for a couple of hours and I wanted to get my opinion out there because I do love this game. It's really awesome. It's a game that I have been a fan of. So let's go to Cole. Cole is one of the newer characters. Now you got a lot of stuff going on here. You have equipment, of course, you have skills. Specifically when you go to rank, what's interesting here is you can choose specific skills as you're ranking up, and a lot of these skills do change how the character is played. They do change how the character kind of grows and moves as you're playing the game. So there are specific skill routes that you do want to go. The best advice I've found so far is actually from Jason Luna, which if you guys aren't familiar with Jason Luna, if you guys have covered my Ni no Kuni footage or my War of the Visions footage, he's someone who's been a long time viewer that has done a lot on a lot of the mobile games. He does a lot of research. He's played on the Taiwanese server for the last 3 months. His best advice was to go online and go to one of the websites. It's actually made by a content creator, I believe. Let me see if I can. Loot and Waifus is what it's called. And whenever you go to Loot and Waifus, it's very similar. If you played War of the Visions, you've probably been to Woad of Calc. It's very similar to Woad of Calc, but it does show essential skills, and you can choose the essential skills that way. That's the best way I found in order to find the essential skills, like which ones you want to get, because if you're like me and you are leveling Barrel up, like I'll be honest, I made a full-on mistake when I was starting my stream. I full on like went into her and I got this ability when I was supposed to get this ability on the left side, and then it just turned into like, fuck, like I messed it up. How do I get that ability? There is an option for you to unlock that ability, but it requires a very rare material. There doesn't seem to be a lot of reset skills or reset specs in this, so I fucked up. You know, I openly messed up, but it's one of those things where just be a little bit careful when you're ranking up your units. Make sure you do your research. This is a game that's going to reward that tactical thinking. If you're someone who likes to go and research units and find out all the information about them, this is going to be a game for you. Now, again, we come back to that question: is this pay to win? Is it free to play friendly? I would say this game is most likely going to be a little bit more pay to win. Just to give you an example, I bought like a battle pass that gives me furniture, because you can place furniture in your house here, right? The furniture increases bond levels, which increases other things, which potentially increases stats, right? So there are things you can do, things you can purchase that are going to enhance your experience. Another great example is like the Cole's Afternoon event, right? Look at this, another battle pass, you know, and it's all on here. What's locked behind the battle pass? Well, it's going to be Cole's best equipment, right? And a fancy skin for Cole. So you are in this situation where it does feel a little bit like Netmarble in terms of like, you're going to want to buy the battle passes, and it seems like a game where the battle passes are going to keep coming out non-stop. So you may not end up wanting to buy a bunch of the rare currency. You may want to buy the battle passes. Well, you have to buy the rare currency to buy the battle passes, except for one, which is $4.99. But it's just a whole situation. It's a whole, I can already see people complaining about buying 4 battle passes a month, getting upset about it, you know, the whole shebang. Now, an important thing on this note, if we are talking purchasing as well, which is something I've never seen before, because this is through the Steam client, you have an option to buy currency through the Steam client, or you can buy it directly from the web page. And if you buy your currency or buy your items through the Steam client, you're going to pay almost a 10% tax, versus if you buy it on their web page, you save 5% and you don't have to pay tax. So if you're doing any purchasing in the game, do it through their web page. All you have to do is put in your UID, and then you just put in the item you want to buy, and then you can buy it. You could even do this for other people, right? You could, this, which I think is wild. I guess people were telling me you've been able to do this on Genshin and stuff for a long time. It's wild to me that you could like gift people stuff or do stuff this way just by knowing people's UID. It's really weird to me, but you can do that, and it saves you 15% whenever you buy through the webpage. So if you are purchasing anything, make sure you buy through the webpage, because that is going to save you the most money right now. Trying to think if there's anything else I can say here in regards to the game so far from what I've experienced. I'll probably do a more in-depth review once I have figured things out a little bit more. I definitely want to get into the guild system. I definitely want to get into the PvP system. I want to kind of experience all of that. And I really want to get into like the end game character building, because I think that's where a lot of the fun is really going to be had. And even now I can tell when I'm deploying certain characters I have to take abilities off because the AI isn't functioning properly in order to get the AI to work good. Like, there's a lot of things going on which I think make a game interesting. And even though the AI is a little bit borked, sometimes I think the fun of having a game like this is learning how to manipulate the AI, plant the proper abilities, and do things right. So I'm overall very excited. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I'm sure I'll be doing more Sword of Convallaria videos. This by no means means I'm back as a content creator full-time or anything like that, but I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you all next time.